All right, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Hawk's Nest of Peak Performers, the podcast where I gather together high performers in various fields and have conversations that seek to empower people to pursue their passions. So I am Ryan, the Rye Bread Hawks, and today I have with me Rob Norton. How you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
No complaints, just finished a good mental skills session. Had to get me a new phone today. My screen gave out, so that
Ooh,
was a little
ooh,
fun, but you know, it is what it is.
yeah. I was gonna say that's always rough. Getting when the phone goes out like that.
Yeah, and the worst part is I saw it coming
Yeah.
because my screen, it's like a lot of people, we're at least old enough, but maybe some young people don't know, like when you got those old school TVs and they start getting like the antenna's not too good and you get the static in there. That's how my
Yep.
phone was starting to look. So I knew it. I just didn't, I've been so busy. I haven't made it in to swap it out. And it just went like you turn it on and it's just like bright light. Like that's all you see. So I was like,
Oh wow, wow.
man, yeah.
You're like yeah. That's a sign. It's about time.
Yeah. And I mean, it was unusable. I couldn't even use it. So I had to. I would have rather waited till like tomorrow or the next day. But it is what it is. It got me the new one. So at least I replaced it. That's all I can say.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
true. That's
Yeah.
all that matters in the end, right?
Yeah, nice. So yeah, Rob, I know me and you, we've known each other a while, started out together at Last Word on Football, right? And been playing
Yeah,
fantasy
yeah,
sports and everything for a while together. But
definitely.
yeah, tell the viewers about yourself.
So yeah, my name's Rob Norton. At Norton0723 on Twitter. That's usually where I'm most active among social media. Yeah, I'm still writing for Last Word on Sports on
Oh,
Last Word on
nice.
Football.
Yeah.
So I usually take a little hiatus after the Super Bowl. I don't do as much like dynasty football content.
Yeah.
I mean, I play in dynasty leagues, but I don't do as much dynasty content or off-season content. That's kind of like my unwind time. I play a ton of fantasy baseball, so I'm real
Oh
heavy into
man.
that. Yeah,
Nice.
so like I just love fantasy sports in general. I love the gamesmanship of it. I love the
Yeah.
challenge, the strategy, just everything about it. And so I love baseball, love fantasy baseball. So kind
Mhm.
of in the off season, since fantasy baseball, is every day as opposed to
Yeah.
football mostly Sunday, obviously
Right.
Monday and stuff, but yeah, so I got to pay kind of more attention. It's more of a grind, longer season every single day.
Yeah.
So to be successful at it, I kind of have to kind of slow down on the content creation for football, and then
Yeah.
once we start getting into July and August, I start ramping it back up again. So
Right.
just dropped my first article in a while today, actually. So I'll have more coming out over the next
There you
few
go.
weeks and throughout the rest of the football season. But yeah, that's what
Yeah.
I'm pretty much been up to with that.
Yeah.
So yeah. So and I don't know if I ever had told you so I do accounting for a pharmacy.
Oh.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So that's my real day job.
Yeah. Yeah.
so so yeah. Accounting for a pharmacy. Got a son,
Hmm.
wife. Got another one on the way.
Oh,
So yeah,
nice.
it's everything's going well. So how about you?
Yeah, it's good. I'm in that boat. Well, we're trying for number one. It's been a
Okay.
few months. Yeah, we're trying for number one, trying to add to the Hawk's Nest,
There you
add
go.
to
There
it.
you go.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, I mean, I'm finishing up grad school. I'm over here. This is actually for the podcast starting, but I want to keep it going forever. But it got me going because it's for my final class. It's basically just make a podcast is my applied project. And
Oh, nice.
yeah,
Nice.
and yeah, next week I'll be taking my oral exam, kind of like your grad school final exam, and just getting my hours, my certification hours. Yeah, so
There you
it's a
go.
good
That's
time.
awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, the only downside is, I mean, I'm so busy with once I got like towards the internship side of grad school, I couldn't do the content creation anymore for fantasy sports, which I'm like, man, I really miss it. I miss it.
I know. That's the thing, man. Like you do it does get like burnout
Hmm.
sometimes, and like you said, when you get busy, you kind of have to prioritize other things. But then, yeah, like that's how it gets for me with like I said, during the off season, then I start missing it again.
Yeah.
And then, it's back to it. But yeah, I don't blame you though at all for having to put it aside. I mean, obviously you gotta set
Yeah.
the priorities, and I'm sure you'll get back into it, do it more often when you get some more
Hmm.
time.
Yeah, exactly. And the crazy part about it is I don't know if you'd agree, because so last year was the first year in like years I hadn't done content creation, right? So correlation doesn't equal causation in our field in psychology.
Right.
But I didn't win one league for the first time ever. And not only that, I was the Sacco. I got last place in my home league. So it's like, I mean, what do you think? Do you think that like writing the fantasy articles makes you a better fantasy player?
It's funny because some people have different views on it. Like,
Mm,
so I hear a lot of people, like one of my buddies is he's a really good fantasy player,
right,
and he likes to keep everything super secret. He wants to trick you, and he doesn't want
right.
anyone to know like any strategy of anything at all. um so he's like super secretive about everything. And so he would tell you, I'm sure, that he would think that it's makes it worse because you're giving away secrets, giving away tips, giving away players you like, and letting other people get an advantage on you.
Right,
However, I kind of think the opposite, just because, I mean, for me, it's, yeah, I like certain players more or less than consensus and things, but at the same
right,
time, like I still am okay with pretty much any player at a certain value, depending. So
right,
it's not like if someone wants to jump up and take a guy, like if I have a guy ranked, a round ahead of consensus, and they want to take him 2 rounds ahead of consensus, I mean, go ahead. Like it's not it's, for me, it's not like you're like pulling one over on me or anything, but at
right,
least it doesn't feel like that to me. But I do think it helps just in the sense of, if you're doing content creation, you're doing more research just for that. So you're just
right,
gonna like have a broader sense of knowledge in general. You may come across a bunch of different players when you're researching one player. Or you're researching certain stats, and then
hmm,
certain guys will pop out that you didn't think of before. So you kind of just have
yeah,
a broader, deeper sense of knowledge. It's just kind of, you pay attention more. So, and it
yeah.
doesn't, you don't have to do content creation to be good or anything, like you
Oh
said.
yeah,
Like, but yeah, like it's just, to me, the more research you're doing, the better. And if you're doing content creation, to do good content creation, you're going to want to put in some good research. So,
yeah, yeah. I agree. I think sometimes it would be like initially frustrating. Would like I'm gonna write an article like I don't know, DeAndre Hopkins gonna be the wide receiver one this year or something. Like, oh man, I'm gonna get all these stats to prove it, and then like halfway through the article, I got to change the damn title because I'm like, do not draft DeAndre Hopkins. I'll find stats that are like the complete opposite. So I think in that regards, it definitely made me, really analyze my process. And, sometimes you'll kind of see something on, if you're just watching the regular film, but, those stats, man, stat finding and analysis can really, help your strategy and kind of bring things to light if you're being honest about it.
hmm
I think some content creators, because you can always manipulate stats. They're manipulative. And I would see that. I'm like, oh, if I want to cherry pick and prove my point, I could still write that article could be believable about Hopkins as wide receiver one. But if I
yep.
want to be honest to myself and put out real content, um, that's really true to what the stats really mean, then yeah, I'm gonna have to change my stance. And man, I mean, sometimes I've just had to throw out entire articles, and it sucks. I'm like halfway
I
through,
know.
and I'm like, I am dead wrong, and I don't want to put it out. So, yep,
Right.
let's switch players.
Yeah, that is something that is frustrating, because, like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm writing,
Hmm.
so sometimes it takes me a long time to write articles, just in general. Like, my wife has asked me, like,
Hmm.
well, why don't you like during baseball season write baseball articles? And I'm like, well,
Right,
because the thing is, for me, it takes me a while to like write an article, because I want it to be, I'm almost a perfectionist in the sense of, like, I want it to be, have a lot of actionable content in it. I want
right,
it to have, good stats in it. But I also want it to be like succinct,
Mm-hmm.
and brief enough to where, it's not like rambling on. And like, so I have a hard time with that balancing process. And I also have a
Right.
hard time like figuring out the order in which I want to say things. Like I have a lot of these things, like these stats and things that I know, like I want to put in there,
Yeah.
but I want it to flow correctly. So I
Mm-hmm.
spend so much time like figuring out a good flow of
Right.
things. And like, so like, yeah, it's frustrating when you get something like that where you're working on that and then all of a sudden you realize, yeah, this really isn't going to be the article I was expecting it was going to be, and I really don't want to put this out when that wasn't my first goal, and you kind of
Mm-hmm.
just have to scrap something as after all that work. It is frustrating.
Yeah, you got to kill your babies sometimes is the
Yeah.
biggest phrase in writing, and that includes fantasy writing as well, and sports
Hmm.
writing. It's rough out there, but also going back to the secret thing is so funny too. How you mentioned like some people don't want that, and
Hmm.
I thought about that when I first started writing too. I was like, man, like there were some times where I wouldn't want to write something because I know now, my league I commissioned, my home league. Once I started to notice that they were reading my stuff, I was like, oh shoot. Like I was really big on my thing was the watch list. I loved writing the watch list, and I was really good at, like the people have the waiver wire, right? And I was
Hmm.
weeks ahead. I would always get players. I would hit on these players like, if you want to grab them now, take a chance. And I start noticing that my league mates keep snatching up all of my freaking watch list guys. I'm like, someone's been reading my articles, but at the same time, I was still winning.
Right. And that's a thing too. Yeah. I've noticed that as well. The biggest thing I noticed with, because like one of my longest running like main home league with most of my, high
Mm,
school friends and things like that, they that was how I got into writing. So
right,
we used to like way back in the day, probably 10, 15 years ago when we were early on in the league, myself and one of my buddies, we would each write an article just specifically for our league, just to
right.
kind of spice it up, make the league different.
Mm,
And it was basically like I would write a studs and duds article, and it would kind of like everyone each week I would post it on Saturday night. We used to all hang out every Saturday night, spend the night at our buddies, watch
yeah,
football on Sundays. And so I would post it Saturday night, like before I go over there, and then
yeah,
everybody would be like
ooh,
waiting in our Facebook group to see,
yeah,
who's got the studs or who's got the duds this week in Rob's
yeah,
article. And then our buddy would post like a like a league preview
yeah,
article of each of our matchups. So we would do that. And then so those guys, they read my stuff or see my stuff more than in my other leagues. And I have noticed, like, for example, last year, um they knew how huge I was on Deontay Johnson and
yeah,
Najee.
yeah.
And so going into our auction draft, um, they knew I was going to bid up on those guys, and they bid me way. And Deontay was like the last receiver of like a tier before it was a huge drop off, and I had money, so I just kept going, and I was like I bid up to 70. And for reference, Diggs, who was like wide receiver 2 or 3 or whatever going into the year, went for 74 earlier in the draft. So it was
Oh
like
man.
I mean, it worked out fine because Deontay had a great year,
He
but
did, yeah,
and same with Najee. So it was still fine, but like that, I do find like in that league, they definitely know
yeah,
how to get me more than the other leagues. So it is like you said, that balancing act. It's
yeah,
tough sometimes, but in the end, it is what it is.
yeah. It's all strategery, man.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly, exactly.
that's cool.
But that's
Yeah,
that's like I said too, like ultimately for me, I generally like, especially, like I put out, guys I like more or less, like a lot more, a lot less this year as well.
yeah,
And I'm sure when it comes down to it in that league, they're gonna try to run me up or whatever else if it gets down to it. But the thing is like I still have those guys in a similar tier as other players. So like I may
yeah.
like them a little more or something, but like
Mm,
I'm gonna keep them into a similar value unless they're the last one left or something and I have money. But like it's the same kind of thing. So that's
mm,
why for me, I feel like it's I enjoy the writing aspect of it. I enjoy helping
mm,
people out. I enjoy putting my stuff out there and challenging myself against
mm,
other competitors and what they're doing. more so than I think that it would like hurt me or whatever, you know?
Right. Yeah, that's so true. And you mentioned that you like helping people out and just playing. I mean, what's the overall like why fantasy sports? Like why do you just kind of hone in on that over other things?
So I've always been huge on stats. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
going back to like when I was a kid, I think about it now, and I remember I was maybe, man, I don't know exactly how old. I was really young. It was like
Yeah,
it was the I remember so specifically, I don't remember the year, but I remember it was the Yankees Mets World Series,
right,
and I remember sitting during the World Series, and I would have a piece of paper, and I'd be
right.
writing down the box scores by hand
Oh wow.
as a little kid, just doing that with my watching the game with my grandpa, and just keeping stats every single player, every single game, adding them up, doing all this stuff, and I was like, it's almost like I was doing my own fantasy leagues and
Mm-hmm.
keeping track of the stats, seeing who did this, and then then as I got older, I always loved sports, I always loved stats, and then about high school, early high school, I heard about fantasy, started getting into it,
Yeah,
and then I just loved the strategy aspect too. Like I love
right.
like a few buddies and I we play like some real, like Euro style strategy board games and things like that.
Mm,
So I love that. And like, so it just combines like all, I guess, my favorite kind of things, the strategy, the sports, the stats,
yeah.
everything into one. And so it just kind of went from there.
Yeah. Yeah. Fantasy sports are just this perfect melding of everything. I so agree. It's like I love
Yeah.
sports, and especially I think what also helped me as you'll see I'm a Raider fan, right? So I think
Hmm.
for me like growing up, like oh man, it got to be a drag to watch the Raiders. Like let's just like I'm even gonna sugarcoat it after years and years of garbage. Getting into fantasy sports, like okay, cool, man. Like the Raider game may have sucked, but at least I could watch, my fantasy dudes tear it up. At least
Yeah,
I've got that.
I know exactly how that goes being a Browns fan. So
That's right.
it's the same for sure. And that definitely plays a factor in it. Like you said,
Mm,
because like you said, you're like you root for the Raiders and I root for the Browns and but you're like, man, it's a drag each time and they're just so garbage for so long and it's like
mm,
you gotta have something else to like root for and cheer for and have a good time with.
yeah. Yeah. And then the stats aspect are so cool. Just an excuse to like really, really analyze. Like I realized, like I always said I wasn't a math guy. And it wasn't until I think fantasy sports that I realized I'm not like I don't like doing math, like the calculations. But I love looking at stats and analyzing stats. It's fun and like
That's
really, yeah,
That's interesting. Yeah, because see, I've always that's the thing too is I've always been a math guy. I've always
yeah.
been really good at math. It was my
Mhm.
best, thing growing up. Like I said, I do accounting
Yeah, I
for
was gonna
a
say
for a
you're a damn
pharmacy.
accountant. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice.
So like I do literally. I mean, I do like like financial analysis and accounting. I do inventory analysis.
Right.
I work on spreadsheets basically all day, every day. I do billing and things like that too. And so I work on spreadsheets all the time. So it's just kind of like something that I'm really good at just to begin with, something that I
Hmm.
enjoyed working with. It's something that like makes sense to me too. Like, and so it's
Yeah.
like, it like clicks a lot easier.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I think like I said, like all those things, it's just the perfect kind of thing for me, I guess.
Yeah. What's like the most rewarding thing about, or like even like the most exciting thing overall, like when you get that article out, when you get one out?
So I think in terms of content, the I'd say the most like exciting, rewarding thing of content at least is when you get that article out. Whether I see it do like well in terms of views and things like that, or if like people will like DM me or things like that and ask questions, or even like they'll ask questions based on the article, or
Mm-hmm.
they'll ask questions based on any of the content that I create, or they'll kind of like, engage about it, or they'll tell me that they really liked it, or things like that. I think
Yeah.
that, like, that to me is the most rewarding, because then it's like,
Mm-hmm.
someone actually values what I'm saying, or
Yeah.
they consider me to be knowledgeable at
Mm-hmm.
this thing. So
Yeah.
I would say that's probably the most rewarding aspect.
Yeah. Nice. And how long did it take you to before like you started like getting those views and like feedback? I mean, I remember my first year I was getting like 20 views an article, and it was like,
Yeah.
man, how long did that take you?
So it's been, it kind of goes up and down. I feel like there was a stretch for a while I was getting tons of views. Like I was getting like I don't even know how it spiked, but like
Yeah.
I saw like a stretch for a while where I was like getting like 1,000 plus
Mm-hmm.
or something, and then like and even like I would search online. I would just go to Google and like search kind of like a similar, type of search that I would normally search, like, oh, DFS article this week or whatever.
Right.
And if mine would be on the first page of the Google, I'm like, oh man, that's sweet. That's
Yeah.
cool. That feels cool. Um, so like, but yeah, it is. I actually at this point kind of try not to look at the the views,
Yeah.
just because I don't want to, like, I haven't looked at them so far for the one I just put out. But like,
Yeah.
it did take a little while, and I was like looking at it all the time early on, and I was getting disappointed,
Yeah.
and I was like, but then I just had to try to think to myself, I'm like, I was doing this for years for
Right.
free to no one. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, so ultimately, like, in my head, I keep putting it to myself where I'm like, you know what? I started doing this for fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've done it for fun for 10 years. Only
Right.
recently have I really started like writing it for a site, putting it out there more.
Right.
So anything, I was like, to me, anything else is basically gravy at that point.
Yeah, it's kind of tough to keep that in mind. I think I've went through that. Like my first year, even though I was getting garbage views, like I was stoked. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing something I loved. I'm finding all of these stats. I mean, for me during that time, that initial time, like what would be most rewarding for me was when I like found that super cool stat
Mm-hmm.
that nobody else had seen, I thought, and would just make my case, even if no one saw it. And then yeah, as I started to learn like more about how to actually get views, which is, the content itself, that's what's kind of frustrating sometimes, is like you can write the best article ever and it just doesn't get views.
Mm-hmm.
So that was something I probably dealt with later on. Like I would write like this really cool article, um and because the SEO wasn't good or there's not an audience, like it wouldn't get views, and that was kind of tough. That was tough.
I do agree, because I've had a I go through that from time to time where like I'll see other people,
Hmm.
and like, I mean, I can admit that like I'll see other people's articles, or other people, you know, the stuff they put out on Twitter, or like different things like that, and I'm like, I've played with a lot of them in leagues, or in like huge overall contests, or different things like that, and I'm like, I'm consistently doing better than a lot of these people. I was like, but why are they, getting their content out, or things like that? And it will like get me down a little bit in a way, but like
Hmm.
I said, I always have to just try to remind myself, like, just do my best at it.
Right.
Do it, as long as I'm enjoying it, doing it, then that's all that really matters. But like, and like you said, though, it does get frustrating, but like,
Yeah.
I mean, and I agree too with that first year when I
Hmm.
um joined Last Word. It was like, definitely, it was just like, I didn't, even though I saw like a lower amount of views, I didn't really care as much, because I was just like, wow, this is awesome. I'm writing for a site, and doing
Yeah.
this, and this is awesome. And last year it did get like a little more frustrating at certain points, like because I
Hmm.
was like, okay, I've been doing this for a while. I was hoping to see more gain on
Hmm.
this, or this and this, and like, and it still wasn't. And like I said, I
Yeah.
went through that stretch for a while where it was a lot, and I was like really encouraged, and then it
Yeah.
kind of dropped off again, and it was
Yeah.
kind of discouraging. And then from that point, I kind of just really haven't looked too much, and
Yeah.
I feel better that way, just knowing that like, hey, I'm doing what I love to do. I'm not worrying too much about like
Mm-hmm.
all this other stuff and just trying to put out the best content I can.
Right. Yeah, I think it's such an easy trap to get into as we go, because definitely the views give us a nice little high, but we can't
Mm-hmm.
can't rely on it, and we got to go back to like, what's the reason I started doing it, you know? And in that kind of brings me to the next little thing I wanted to mention was like one thing that I learned about, and there's some things I got used to and I got better at, and then some things I just really hated and never liked. But the thing about being a writer today and a content creator in that regards is it's not just about the writing, right?
Right.
There's so much more that goes into it. How did you kind of like, how much do you enjoy the other stuff, like, learning SEO or
Mm.
promoting your work and getting engagement?
So that the SEO part is still something that like I have trouble with in a way. Like I still don't
Hmm.
understand like fully. I mean, I've kind of like reached out to some of the editors and things like that to try to figure out better
Hmm.
ways for me to like get better SEO, different things like that.
Hmm.
Um, and as you know, like when we're doing it, it has that SEO like red light, yellow light, green light
Right.
little rating system and things like that. And I always try my best to get it as green light as possible.
Yeah.
Um, and same thing with like the ease of reading and things like that. I try to
Hmm.
get everything as green as possible and do as best I can with it. I
Right.
don't like you said, like that's a whole nother aspect of it that a lot of people don't even realize when you're doing it. And like even I
Yeah.
didn't when I first got into writing, I had no idea.
Yeah.
So that part of it, I don't necessarily like enjoy it that
Yeah.
much because it just feels like to me, I'm trying to get the content out. And
Right.
then like after I, write my article, I feel like a sense of accomplishment. I'm like, okay, I got this article out. I can't wait to get it out there. But then I'm like, oh, now I gotta copy and paste. I gotta
Yeah.
do all this SEO stuff to try to figure out which is the best way to get it out to a bigger audience and like all these
Right.
things. And so then I'm like, it just feels like more of a drag at that point sometimes.
Yeah.
So I kind of like right now, for example, I got that first one out. I've actually already written two more,
Hmm.
almost the third one more. But I was like tonight, I was like, I don't even want to, I don't even want to do
Always
the
mess with
SEO.
SEO. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna just save it to tomorrow or the next
Hmm.
day. I was
Yeah.
like, and plus it'll kind of space it out a little bit. But now in terms of the like engagement, I don't mind doing the engagement like in terms of
Hmm.
Twitter,
Right.
Facebook. I kind of keep my own like it's I keep it more of like my personal, just like
Right.
friends and things like that. I don't promote it as much on Facebook. Um, Reddit is something I struggle with for a while
Oh
and still,
man.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's still
It's a
do because
cesspool.
yeah, and it is, and the other thing is like I had never really been on it for a long time,
Hmm.
and then when I went to do it, you know, like a lot of them will ban you or whatever if you're just only
Yeah.
promoting your stuff, and so I'm like I was already spending so much time on Twitter trying to like interact, and I was already answering all
Hmm.
these questions, doing all this stuff. It felt like trying to do it on Reddit was just so like taxing, and I couldn't keep up with like trying to
Yeah.
do that while also promoting. So I kind of stuck more to promoting, and then all of a sudden, like next thing I know, I got like banned from whatever for a while, and I'm like, well, now I can't even go on there and
Yeah.
promote. And so yeah, in terms of that, I don't do the best because
Hmm.
I can't even really do it through Reddit as much anymore. And like I said on
Hmm.
Facebook, I do it a little bit, but most of my promoting is through Twitter, through some
Yeah.
like share groups and things like
Nice.
that. And then I usually like will promote it like on Discord and like
Right.
just the people around on the Discord server, things like that. But yeah, I really, if I wanted to like really get a ton better, I would really need to like focus on that side of it more, the promoting and the
Yeah.
SEO. um because I think I do put out like decent, I mean, at least in my opinion, but like a feel like I put out solid content, decent content.
Yeah.
But like you said, you can put out the best article in the world but if it reaches nobody, it doesn't really do anything.
Yeah, yeah, that was really frustrating to me and something that took me a while to get down because yeah, I mean, to me the social media aspect sucked. Like
Yeah.
like you basically spend like as much or more time like on the social media end to get yourself viewers than actually
Hmm.
writing the article. So I did see the payoff when I finally started doing it, but
Right.
man, it was a grind. Like, and especially like Twitter is my favorite social media. That's the one social media that I could get on and enjoy it and not
Hmm.
just feel like it's
Same.
a grind. But the engagement was the worst. Like I would get,
Yeah.
for me personally, I would get like 2 views, 2 article clicks from my damn Twitter. And I'm like, man,
I
like what's up with this? I got over 1,000 followers. Like, where y'all at?
I know.
Using hashtags and everything. Um,
Yep. Yep.
yeah,
I feel the same way. Like Twitter is the one, like I mentioned, where it's like the easiest for me to get on, interact, keep up with, do all kinds of things.
mhm,
Um, and it's the easiest one for me to like blast it out there and like,
yeah,
but like you said, it doesn't see a whole lot of views generally.
yeah,
So like that's why I started doing the Reddit more. I think on Reddit I did get more views,
yeah,
but then like I said, like keeping up with like trying to be active on Reddit,
yeah,
like just going to like random like people's stuff and commenting or doing different things like that.
yeah,
Like I never really like thought of doing that as much.
right,
Whereas like with Twitter, the thing is like I'm pretty active on Twitter because I can just tweet out like a
mhm,
stat or like rankings or like some kind of whatever, and then like people will comment back, and then I can just have engagement that way, and it's easier
right,
rather than just finding something random on
yeah,
Reddit to comment on. So
yeah,
like I was even like to try to make myself more active on Reddit, what I was trying to do was like every day at like certain times I would try to go on and
yeah,
just like scroll and just like
mhm,
comment, even just random comments or like whatever on like all
yeah,
this different stuff, just so that way when I did post my stuff that it wouldn't seem like I was just only posting my stuff and not commenting on anything else.
yeah.
And so but then that got to be too much and I was just
It's
like,
tedious.
yeah, it is. It is.
Reddit
So
is like a cesspool. Like
oh,
the
for
comments
sure.
on there, it's just so it's terrible. It's
It's
terrible.
brutal.
It's yeah, it's brutal. But yeah, I mean that's what sucks. It's the best for engagement. Like I could, especially the fantasy articles when I'd put up. I
Hmm.
mean, you can get like 3, 4,000 views in like, in like a couple hours from your post. So that's kind of like okay, there's a little grind to get there, and I see the payoff because then now I'm like I think I got a great article and I want this freaking thing posted and read. um so I would do it, but yeah, it's so tedious, so
Yeah.
tedious.
Oh, I agree, man. It really is, and like you said, with it being a cesspool and stuff, like you can just, I mean, you can just go down all kinds of rabbit holes when you get on there. So, and you
Yeah,
get all kinds of crazy comments sometimes, and just like
yeah,
it's just crazy sometimes.
yeah, just out there. But I mean, when we think about it, kind of coming back to like, I guess like if we really want to be our best and like be like high performing in the field, it's part of that grind that we got to get used to, huh?
Hmm. Yeah, it really is. And that's something that like I said, for me, I really do need to do better at with that. Like Reddit is one that really I need to do better with. Learning the SEO more is like
Mm,
something that could really pay off. And so yeah, it is. I agree. Like if you really want to be at that high level, uh,
yeah.
those are all the things that you gotta really put the work in, because those are the kind of things that not a lot of people really want to put the work in,
Hmm.
and it will pay off eventually.
Yeah, yeah, because that's what's going to get you up to the higher sites. Like you eventually, some people won't have to do it. Like I'm sure if you write for like Fantasy Pros and stuff, maybe, or like NFL.com, you ain't got to go promote your own work. But in order to get there, like they're going to probably want to see like how, what's your views, like how do you know SEO? You probably got to at least have some SEO knowledge, or for the viewers that don't know, search engine optimization, so that people find
Yeah.
your articles.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. That was the thing too. Like, um, that was the other thing that was like get me down a little bit was that like I would see people who I didn't really see them putting out a whole lot of content. I didn't see them,
Hmm.
doing great fantasy wise in their leagues or like, but they had like what I would say is they were like more of a personality, like
Yeah.
they were more charismatic or something like that. And then I would see them getting like just boosting up so
Yeah.
fast, and I'm like, I'd be a little jealous at times. I'll be honest.
Hmm.
And because I would feel like I'd feel like my work was better. I'd feel like my performance as a fantasy player was better, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what else to do unless I like go out there and be just like either this like clickbaity, hot takey
Yeah.
person, or if I'd be this just like super charismatic person. Like
Yeah.
it felt like those were the only ways. But
Yeah.
like you said, doing the SEO,
Mm.
doing the behind the scenes work is definitely will pay off eventually.
Yeah. And that's perfect for, another topic I really love to touch on in this podcast too is authenticity. So how do you kind of balance that? Like, that some of this is necessary, that to an extent, being successful requires being somewhat of a personality and engagement farming in certain ways. But how do you kind of mitigate that? And like, okay, I got to do some of it, but I'm going to keep my authenticity, and this is me.
Right. And I feel like that is such a tough balance because you see those accounts out there that
Mm,
will be all about the engagement farming
mhm.
and like yeah, they'll get there faster, but there's a lot of people that really rubs the wrong way.
Yeah.
When you see them like just posting all the memes about you see the ones like about the ketchup or whatever, and like ketchup
Yeah.
goes on this or whatever, and and personally I have no problem with like whoever does whatever way they want to do, do live your life and do you
Mm,
use your Twitter how you want to do it. um but like yeah, for me, it's tough sometimes because I do see that and I see these people gaining tons and thousands of followers and getting all this engagement, and I'm like, man, should I go do that kind of stuff or try to do that stuff? And so occasionally I'll kind of get caught up in a little bit of it here and there and do these kind of things, but then I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, I don't want to be like known for that. Like I want to
right.
be known for like what my work and what I'm doing. Like,
Yeah.
so it is, like you said, it is a tough balance. And then the other thing is, like you said, like having the charismatic personality, things like that. Like, I'm
Yeah.
not like I know even for me, like I've done so much better over the past year and a half, 2 years in terms of just getting on podcasts or getting out there more. Just because like I'm a super normally like a super shy
Yeah.
person in general. Like until I get to know you a little better, it really like I'm real anxious, social anxiety, like big time for me. So doing things like that, like I just try to like do it more and more to get
Right.
more and more comfortable with it because I know it is like
Mm-hmm.
important, like and then like
Yeah.
you see all the ones who are like full-time big time are all doing this kind of thing, and like for me, like I'm like, it's tough sometimes. There's sometimes I don't want to do certain things or whatnot, but I'm
Yeah.
like try to like do more and more podcast live streams, videos as much
Mm,
as possible. So
yeah.
yeah, it is definitely a tough balance. And I know like for myself, like since I am more of a, shy, anxious person, I'm never gonna be like
Right.
that like real high energy personality like some people are. So I know that's never gonna be like my path to
Right.
like making it or whatever you want to say. Um, so I know like for me, it's going to be more about like putting out the great content,
Right.
doing the behind the scenes work, doing all these kinds of things, because that's more of one what I enjoy and more of who I am. Like, and so when you talk about authenticity,
Right.
I know I'm not like that
Mm-hmm.
huge personality type. So I know like if I
Yeah.
try to fake it, eventually people are going to realize it's fake.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never been a fan of the fake it till you make it thing. Like, I guess it's
Yeah.
like, there might be some truth to it, but like faking it just kind of like people see through it and then you're not happy, you
Hmm.
got to be happy with yourself. And I think a lot of us in the fantasy field are getting into it because we love it, and if we can make a career out of it eventually, or make a little extra dough on the side, cool. But you know yeah.
No, I definitely 100% agree with you on that.
Yeah.
Like you said, like people are gonna see through it, and you're not gonna be happy. And like
Mhm.
most most if not everyone kind of gets into it because they for the love of it, like they love
Mhm.
doing it. And yeah, of course, like at times it can be overwhelming, or at times it can be a burnout, a grind, and or whatever you want to call it. But I mean, ultimately, you get into it because you love it. So if you're being fake, you're doing a lot of things that you don't really
Mhm.
like. People are going to know that, and you're not going to be happy. So I mean, at that point, what's the point of it?
Yeah. Yeah. Nice.
So,
Yeah, I love it. So what's your next goal or what's your goal for this season?
um, you just mean in like terms of
I
fantasy,
guess,
just like
yeah, content
content and like
creation. Yeah.
okay, yeah. So I mean, I like to just keep steadily like gaining, kind of gaining followers, gaining more views, just keep progressing up. I don't have to like feel like I have to like spike huge or like any kind of
Yeah.
like thing like that, but like at least just seeing steady progress. In terms of like the content itself, I want to just keep making sure that I'm like putting out like the content that I enjoy, that I think people will enjoy.
Yeah.
um I'm always like trying to reassess like different things, whether you know what people like, what people don't like. I know DFS is kind of something, with DraftKings and things like that, is something that like
Oh
I
yeah.
love. So
Yeah.
like I'm always gonna write stuff about that, and then it's obviously booming.
Hmm.
So like it can get over. I mean, it can be kind of an oversaturated market, I would say, but at the same time, like it is stuff that people want. Like more and more people
Right.
every year are playing it. So I want to continue putting out like stuff with that. I want to make sure like because that's my main article each week, and that's the
Right.
one that like I want to make sure I'm doing a great job on that one. If nothing else, I want that one to be
Yes.
top notch. And so I keep going back. I keep thinking about like different things to do with it, how to tweak it, how to make it better for viewers and things like that. And like so I guess that's kind of where I'm at with it. I mean, my main goal is, I guess, to get more and more views, keep getting,
Hmm.
um, just steady progress upward. I guess is ultimately what I'm aiming for.
Nice. Yeah, well, I'll definitely be checking your stuff out because once I started talking to you about DFS and learning about stacks and stuff, oh, it took my game to the next level. I started winning a lot more, uh, looking at point spreads and all that good stuff. I'm like, okay, all right.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. Yeah, I've been trying, and that's one thing that's really satisfying too. Is like a lot of my buddies. There's one guy who's pretty good, really
Hmm.
good DFS player. The other ones, they'll win from time to time, but
Hmm.
like it's not like it's a kind of like a fluke kind of thing. Like it's not, and like
Yeah.
they'll say they're really good or this and that, but then like when I start really talking to them more in depth about things and teaching them different concepts and things, it's stuff like they had no idea, and they start to really love it too. And like so
Yeah.
like that's something that I love, is like seeing my friends and think other people who like really enjoy it start learning, doing better themselves.
Yeah.
um and for me, even the stuff that I like, when we talk about stuff, you and I, that's
Hmm.
stuff that I had kind of just really learned over the past 5 years or so,
Hmm.
and just kind of get more and more in depth on it, in terms of just keep getting better and better, and honing my game at it, and keep like getting better and better at each different type of game, cash games, GPPs, like all these different things. So
Yeah.
um yeah, that's it's a whole thing. It's like a whole crazy
Yeah.
crazy world. There's so much more than people realize that
Oh yeah.
once you start really diving in, it's intricate.
Yeah, man, I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh man, I wasn't even really thinking about DFS yet. I'm just excited for my actual fantasy draft. And then I love also doing like prop bets weekly, which a lot of times like kind of coincide with some of my like DFS stuff, when you're looking
Mm.
at spreads and like, okay, this guy's gonna do good. And you start looking at things like I love like this guy's gonna get like 125 yards in a touchdown type bets, or like, this and this will happen. I'm like, well, this coincides with my freaking DFS lineup because I think this stack's going to do good. So I'm going to throw down on a prop bet for the quarterback and wide receiver to, have this amount. So,
Oh yeah, that is awesome, and that's one thing that I would do more of too. Right now, unfortunately, Ohio, we can't
ah,
do any prop bets, so I can't really like get too much into it.
yeah.
So starting in I think January though, 2023 is
Oh, really?
they're opening it up. So starting in January 2023, but this season, at least this season for NFL, I won't be able to really do that. Otherwise, I would for sure because, like
Yeah.
you said, it really does. Like, there's a lot of correlation with that and DFS.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you think certain DFS players are going to do really well, and you can correlate that
Yeah.
uh, your prop bets and just stack on top of it and make a bunch of money that way. I'm all for that.
Oh, yeah. What's up? Does Bovada know your location or what?
They do,
Ah,
unfortunately,
man.
because I thought about VPN,
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
get around it and things. So
I
I
thought
mean, we'll
about it
see.
when I was in Vegas.
Yeah. So yeah, it's I keep myself busy enough with a ton of DFS that I kind of like where I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll wait till it comes out. But yeah, I've trust me, yeah, I've definitely definitely thought about trying ways to get around it. My brother actually is like
Mhm.
huge into prop bets. Like, he
Yeah.
loves it. He lives, I think, in North Carolina or something. No,
Yeah.
like actually Virginia, DC area.
Yeah.
So he's when he comes home and stuff, he'll always be like show me all his bets, or he'll send me his bets and all
Yeah.
this different stuff, and he'll ask me what I think of these different
Yeah.
bets and things like that. And he's big into live betting, like live prop
Oh,
bets.
live. Yeah. I don't do too much of that.
Oh, he's
Yeah.
he's wild with it, man. He gets a little crazy, and so
Yeah, that's why I don't, because if I went too much, I would start. I have this is what I'm going to use for the week. I'm going to bet them and then I'm going to let it go.
yeah, I don't blame you. You got to be disciplined. I mean, if you're,
Yeah.
especially, yeah, it's his a little wild. So even for me, who likes to do stuff like that, like, there's no way I'd be betting the amounts that he's betting, and it's just
Yeah.
like it gets too reckless. I'm like, my wife would
Yeah.
kill me too, so that
Oh, yeah.
that wouldn't go over so well.
Yeah, some people, because I'm like a small better and like so I started with like $50 on the season and I came out with like 300. So that's like how small I'm going. My buddy's like, you win
Hmm.
a lot, man. Why don't you throw down like 100? I'm like, no, because I lose that bet and then my whole freaking purse is gone. Like,
Yeah.
I'd rather
Yep.
I'd rather like lose a little, gain a little, and live to fight another day.
Right. Especially like if you're doing it more for fun, like you
Yeah.
you enjoy doing it,
Mhm.
and you like having little stakes in on it, little skin in the game,
Yeah.
um, and if you're not really trying to like make a living off of it,
Yeah.
like then it is tough to like really go wild with it. And everyone knows their own like budget on it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
so I do like I do a pretty good amount during football season, like on
Mhm.
DraftKings, like per week.
Yeah.
Um, Definitely more than I used to.
Yeah.
And my wife's not always happy about it all the time, but I do well enough though
Mhm.
most years that by the end of the year she's fine with it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so I always keep, and like I said, since I'm a big spreadsheets guy, I keep spreadsheets of every single like thing I do, every single league, every single like fantasy league I've been in for every single sport since 2007. I have in a spreadsheet, like
Dang.
all this stuff. Like, I have tabs broken down by each league, my finish each season, my in, my out, my total profit, like every single league I've ever been in. Then I have a chronological order one, all
Yeah.
everything, like all my daily fantasy
Oh,
stuff, like everything all in the spreadsheet. So I track a lot of it, try to figure out, what
yeah.
I'm good at, what I'm better at, um, different things like that. And
Yeah.
you know, so whenever she gets a little upset about it, I usually
You show her
kind
the
of refer
stats.
her. Yeah, I refer her to the spreadsheet and,
Get the
and tell her
receipts
she can.
out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah, but yeah, no, I do. Like I said, I do more than I used to, but we also, as you get older, you kind of have more of the means generally too. So
Exactly. Yeah.
I wouldn't be doing. I've always been like a real frugal person
Yeah.
in general, so I wouldn't be doing anything that I couldn't do, and I don't recommend
Yeah.
that for anyone.
Never spend more than you can lose. That's
Ex-
exactly how you go.
I'm 100%, hundred
Yeah.
percent.
Man, I wish I did spreadsheets 1 year for me. And I loved it. It was so cool to see, but I couldn't keep up with them, man. I would love to do that. I can't believe that you've got them for like years worth of data. That's freaking sick.
Yeah, dude, it's awesome because like I just love like looking at stats, like I said, in general. So like I love
Yeah.
looking back at like all my leagues and like what place I got in these leagues, and then like it's a nice thing too. I can easily see like each year, okay, how many championships did I win this year? How
Mm,
much money did I put in? How much money did I get back out for
mm,
this football season? And then I can also, like I said, I can look at like every single year of like my home league we've been doing for 15 years, and I can see how much money I've spent on that league, how much money I've made in that league, and like all these things. And I can, easily pick out like which leagues I've been best in, which leagues I've been the worst in. And like if I
yeah.
really needed to, like, I can see which leagues I should really cut, or things
Yeah.
like that, if I really needed to do that, or
Yeah.
something like that. So, and I just love, like I said, I'm a stats person, so I love looking at all that kind of stuff, the history of stuff.
Yeah. Nice. I love it. Yeah. Last thing I wanted to do, I really want to talk a little bit about your baby bowl and kind of what's the story behind that? Why'd you start what is it for the viewers and why'd you start that up?
So yeah, Baby Bowl um, is a one and done type league.
Mhm.
Every week, you can choose a different lineup. It's very DFS like, just without the salaries.
It's like
Um,
extreme DFS in a way.
yep, exactly. And yeah, so you can pick a different lineup every week. Then you get points just like you would in fantasy, and then the twist is obviously that you can only use them once per year. So
Right.
obviously, if you use McCaffrey in week one, you can't use him in your lineup again the rest of the year. So obviously, as the year goes on, your player pool just thins out more and more and more. And it creates a lot of different unique strategies, different challenges, things like that. So, yeah, but with the Baby Bowl, what it is half the entry fee goes to charity,
Hmm.
and half the entry fee goes towards prize pool. And the prize pool, is broken down based on percentages, based on how many entries we get and things like that. And like right now, I think we're up to probably 120 some, as long as everyone actually signs in and pays on time. So
Yeah.
so it's always kind of an adjustment, but um so yeah, I'm hoping to keep getting more and more and more. But yeah, so really how it came about was I had done this style league for playoffs
Hmm.
for years, actually. Even before I was became more active on Twitter, I
Right.
did this for years and years, just with a friends group, and different people I knew, and I would keep track of it manually on a spreadsheet. Back to the spreadsheets. But
Oh man.
yeah, so people would text me or email me their lineup. I would put it in, and I usually would take a screenshot or something and send it back to them to confirm.
Right.
And then once the games were over, I'd put their stats in and have it calculated out to where it would just give me the points and total it up.
Yeah.
And I would do that for everyone.
Yeah.
And then so like I said, I would do that, and then we did it for the playoffs. So I was like thinking to myself, I'm like, I want to do this for the regular season.
Yeah.
And then my next thought was, I was like, I should, once I start getting more active on Twitter and writing stuff, getting more of a following, I should open this up to Twitter. I found out about Scott Fishbowl,
Yeah.
um, and thought it was like definitely a really cool idea. So I was like, I want to implement like a charity aspect of it.
Right.
Um, so that's how kind of like all of that came about. The reason it was Baby Bowl, so our close friends, they lost their child like at basically at
Mm-hmm.
like full term.
Oh.
Um, and so that was kind of like the inspiration
Mm-hmm.
behind that, kind of to honor
Right.
him and them. So that was all of those things kind of is basically like how it came about.
Right.
And then so it, like all those things combined, and I was like, you know what, this is something I think that I could use like my like influence or following to do
Yeah.
something good. It would be a cool unique league that I don't think like really basically like anyone was really doing. I've always had a fun time doing that style league,
Mm-hmm.
and like I said, like adding the charity aspect, and the cool thing that's come out of it too now is obviously like each week Wes and I do the podcast together.
Yeah.
And then like he had the idea of bringing on like the weekly winner
Yeah.
uh to the podcast, and so that's been really cool because then I've like you've been on before.
Yup. Once
um
per season. I'm
yep, you got to
getting it again. Yeah,
keep
this will
that
be year
streak up this
3
year.
for me. I
Yep.
better get one more.
Exactly. So like that's been really cool because then you get to talk to people that you don't know, get to meet a lot of people and talk to a lot of people from different backgrounds, different things like that. And so we've met a lot of cool people over the years, and so it's just been like you know really cool. And I'm hoping
Yeah.
like to just keep making it bigger and better. We've
Yeah.
gotten bigger each year.
Yeah.
So even this year, even if there is some people that don't pay, as long if we get over, I mean, I think last year we had 86 for the regular season.
Right.
So right now we're sitting at 120 plus,
Yeah.
and like I said, as long as everyone pays and signs in, so we
Yeah.
should definitely beat that 86 no matter what.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I'm hoping to keep adding more and more. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's like the backstory on it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so it's
Oh,
been fun. I really
yeah.
liked it so far and really
Yeah.
enjoy doing it.
Yeah, it's so cool to be able to like, something I'm trying to think about how to do is like, once you have that platform and thing that you love, like now how do we give back? So that's such a cool way to do it.
Hmm.
Half of it goes to March of Dimes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it was half to March on Dimes. Now the half gets split in half. So it's a quarter of
Mhm.
the money goes to March of Dimes, a quarter of the money goes to Ashley's Embrace.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Hmm.
yeah. But yeah, half of the money still goes to charity. Just two charities that it goes to
Hmm.
now.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so that's been cool. And then yeah, like I said, the other half goes towards those prize pools, and we got the
Hmm.
weekly high score gets that 1%.
Yep.
I wanted to add that and keep that because I know how like come sometimes you can miss a week or something. Um,
Hmm.
I know people have like missed weeks, and then in a tournament this big, if you miss it, if you just take a 0 1 week, it's pretty much a death
Yeah.
sentence in terms of trying to compete for the overall.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
didn't want people. I mean, it's hard enough to do it even when you're scoring every week.
Yeah.
So taking that 0 um, really hurts. But I added that weekly high score factor because I wanted people to still just have an incentive every single week to
Hmm.
keep setting your lineup, keep being active. Even if you're in last place, you could win that final week and get a little bit of money
Hmm.
back, get on the podcasts and enjoy it, have a good time. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's been fun.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I remember one week I think my lineup didn't register because I'm pretty religious about it, and it didn't register
Mm,
and I didn't notice, and I should know because it does give you the confirmation email and I didn't get it.
right.
So I'm sitting there and And I'm like, I wanted to go check on it, and like, like, oh yeah, every Sunday night I check where am I in the standings. I'm like, zero, no. And I remember, I think it was like one of my running backs did like just killed it too. So I was so sad.
Oh
I
yeah.
was like, man. So I had to just throw together a lineup of Monday Night Football guys. It was such a terrible lineup. I probably got like 50 points or something, if that.
Dude, it's funny too because it happens to so many people.
Yeah.
And I get it for sure. Like it's I feel terrible all the time too because like if I notice and if I, if I like if I have time, which a lot of times like anymore I really don't. But
Yeah.
like I used to be able to go through Sunday mornings and
Mhm.
kind of go through Sunday mornings and check to see who has and hadn't, and I try to do my best to like
Yeah.
message everyone with a
Yeah.
reminder. Um, Now that it's grown more,
Yeah.
it's I mean it's nearly impossible for me to do that. Plus with like how much like lineup tweaking and things like that I'm doing with like my own leagues with
Yeah.
DFS, like it's just too much. I also play basketball
Yeah.
Sunday mornings too until 11, and then sometimes I work. So it's like
Yeah.
it's just too much. So always feel bad when it happens. But I do what I do like to try to do at least is before the Sunday night games or at least before the Monday night games. During Monday, like maybe Monday during work, I'll go through and check the like live scoring, and if I see anyone's at like zeros,
Hmm.
I'll look and see if they set a lineup or not, and I'll try to message them on Mondays at the very
Hmm.
least.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I feel bad because then some people, they'll message me and they'll say, "Hey, I know I set a lineup, and you
Yeah.
know this and this," and I'm like, I'm sorry, and I always have to tell them like, I'm sorry, I
Yeah. You
can't, like, because
can't.
anyone could tell me that. I'm like,
Yeah.
I can't go back through, and I even have it like on the home page, like in bold.
Hmm.
I can't change it after the fact.
Yeah.
I
Can't
don't even
do
want
it.
to open that can of worms.
No.
Yeah, because
No.
it's just exactly like it's just too much. People will be upset,
Hmm.
and so like I always tell everyone, I'm like, put your confirmation emails. Make sure you have your like confirmation emails on,
Yeah.
and make sure you get one. If you don't get one, that means it didn't confirm. And like,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
I try, my best to like help people with it and do as best I can. But like, I mean, when
Yeah.
you have that many people, and I'm also in, like I said, doing my own content, I'm doing
Yeah.
like all these other things. Like it's hard to like really keep up with everyone
Oh
else's.
yeah. And
So
the more it grows, number one, the more people you're gonna get that do that and try to get it, and
hmm
then two, the less time you're gonna have for it. So yeah, that's why when it screwed up for me, I said, hey, I'll take my L. I didn't check for my confirmation email. That's on me.
yeah, no, and most people, like almost everyone, has been pretty cool about it. There was one guy that was like pretty upset with me about it,
Yeah.
and he basically he stopped setting lineups from that point on. He he didn't like he wouldn't respond to any of my messages. Like I'd
Mm.
message him like, hey, you didn't set a lineup this week or whatever, and he just wouldn't say anything to me, and it's just like,
Your
whatever. I was like,
loss.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's what it is. I mean, like I said, it's big and bold on all pages.
Hmm.
I send it out to in a DM everyone beforehand. I remind people all the time about these things, and like
Yeah.
I can only do so much. I can't set
Exactly.
set it for you.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Well, I got to tell, I mean, you've probably muted me by now. I'm sure most of the fantasy football and the NFL people on Twitter, but I'm in the Algorand space, in the crypto space, and I'm sure I got some people who might be interested. I gotta maybe throw your tweet in some of my crypto discords, and maybe I'll get some more people in there for you.
Yeah, definitely, and no, I definitely don't have you muted. Don't have you muted. I was kind of getting into it for a little while. Like I never really got fully into it.
Yeah,
I was like interested,
yeah,
but then I was like, as I started to like dive a little bit deeper into it, I'm
yeah,
like, man, there's so much to this for me that like if I really
yeah.
wanted to get into it, I got to devote a lot more time.
Oh
And I was
yeah,
like, I'm already like so busy, so I kind of like stopped, and then I just kind of like left it at that, and then
yeah,
haven't really done anything with it for 6 8 months, and so
yeah.
that was kind of my brief little stint of like a few days or a few weeks or a month or so of crypto kind of like
Hmm.
basics.
Yeah.
But
Oh yeah, I've been in deep, and I'll probably kind of pull out a little for this fantasy football season now. Um, but yeah, I mean it's fun. It's fun. Fun
Yeah.
little community. But
Yeah.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, this is pretty much it from here. So you got any I always like to ask if you have any questions for me now.
Yeah. So I was gonna say, so for this podcast, you're doing it for school, correct? You said?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Hmm.
And I know you said it was for high performance. What exactly, I guess I never really asked you what
Hmm.
exactly is like the degree that you're.
Oh yeah, sports psychology. Yeah, so my
Okay.
major is sports psychology. So basically, simply put, I'm trying to be like a mental or a physical trainer, but for your mind.
Okay.
Whereas the physical trainer works out your body and makes it stronger. What I'm doing is trying to make your mind stronger, and get you through things. So I could work on stuff like dealing with performance anxiety or keeping focus and concentration, breathing techniques, just all kinds of cool stuff like that. That's
That's
my
awesome.
jam. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what is I was gonna say is the end goal then for you, like what's the what exactly would be your ideal like job to get then? Would it be working with like a
Hmm.
sports team, a professional sports team, or would it be like
Hmm.
independent contracting type
Yeah,
with sports
definitely.
players?
Yeah, more kind of on like the independent contracting thing. So what I really want to do is have my own company, where I'm basically like of course have me doing the work and can get contract, but also have others, working under me with I don't even like under me, but just working with me for in pursuit of the same vision. So yeah, ideally, I would be able to contract with individually athletes and teams too, to work and
Right.
do work that way. Like, I mean, for at least a short time frame in my life, I would love to be the mental skills trainer for the Raiders. I mean, they're my favorite team. Um,
Right. Right.
yeah,
That'd be
like
the
one.
dream.
Oh yeah, that'd be sick.
Yeah.
So basically, like one of the rock stars in our field is right now, like kind of young, new age guys like Michael Gervais, and so he's actually the mental skills trainer for the Seattle Seahawks, and he's really close with Pete Carroll.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's pretty awesome.
he's got a book that he co-authored called Compete to Create, really good. Um, yeah, and even before sports psychology, I was always like obsessed with Pete Carroll's Culture of Grit. And a lot
Mm,
of it comes from sports psychology. I learned. I'm like, okay.
yeah. So that makes sense. As I say, it makes sense that it would all tie back into it. That's
Yeah.
really cool though. That is really cool.
Hmm.
Definitely. Definitely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking about that when
Yeah.
I was like it does make sense. I could definitely see you doing some
Mhm.
stuff like that for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. And I wouldn't want to just limit myself to athletes either. Like, I mean, all of these skills and that's kind of why I get like I'm not just limiting this podcast to, pure athletes. I think, like you're an artist, you're a performer in your own right. These skills can kind of transfer over and, maybe inadvertently they kind of come through and out of me in the podcast. And then what the way things that you say, listeners can even transfer that
Right.
over too. Like big, like to me a lot of it starts with awareness, being authentic, and just finding what you're passionate about. So if I find people that are passionate, authentic, and high performers, then we got a podcast. And you know
No, that's definitely awesome. That's definitely awesome. I'll definitely have to tune in more, once you
Mhm.
start putting it out more and because I know you said you're gonna be putting them out more publicly too. So I'll
Yeah.
be excited to see more of it and
Hmm.
hope that you definitely keep it up even after. I know you said you're planning on keeping it up after the
Yeah.
class is over and everything too. So that'll be awesome.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm hoping to dump all the episodes. This is episode 5 already, so
Oh,
we'll
nice.
get them all. I'm just waiting for my logo to be created because I want to launch it right, and then hopefully
Hmm.
within the next week. Yeah, I was kind of debating. I'm like, well, should I like release them a week apart? But I'm like, I got all these episodes; they're ready to go. I'm right. I'll probably just upload and release them, and maybe promote them like one a day or once every couple days, a new one.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think
Yeah,
that's probably, yeah, it makes sense to me too. That's probably what I would do.
yeah, yeah. Nice. All right. Well, any other questions? Oh my God, it's always fun.
Um, I guess I know you took some time off of
Hmm.
last word. Are you planning on coming back after, you think, or you just kind
Man,
of playing it by
yeah.
ear?
Yeah, I would love to, but I think what I want to do is try to transition more into like a sports psychology
Hmm.
type writing. Yeah, I mean it's kind of like it kind of comes to me with authenticity too. Like I really loved the fantasy football content. I loved writing it, but I think towards the end, I got into this thing where I started to kind of get into like a routine. Like I figured out like this is kind of the blueprint that's going to get me views, and I stuck to that. Um, so I don't know if I want to do fantasy content anymore. I guess is the
Yeah,
long
no,
story. Yeah.
it makes sense. I mean, like you said, like you said, you enjoyed it, but as
Yeah.
you're doing it, you kind of found more of what you enjoy more.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a means to an end for sure. I mean, it really started with me. I think it really helped. Like when I started, I actually went. I got a Twitter for a podcast that died, a fantasy football podcast. I found Last Word on Sports. Decided, dude, I freaking love. Like I've always been a writer. I've loved writing. Like I freaking love fantasy football. I love sports. And then from there, it helped me actually find grad school. Like I did this first and realized, well, I want to do something in sports, and then I find sports psych. So it's all been kind of like this. It's a really weird road, but
Yeah,
it all pays off because like a lot of what I've learned from Last Word on Sports, like the podcasting or the articles, the SEO, the engagement on social media is all going to be useful in the work I do in the company because the successful mental skills trainers are doing all of this. You have to put
right.
out content, whether it's blogs, podcasts. So I'm kind of like a lot of my classmates, like they're kind of like figuring all this out. And like I kind of, not that I have it figured out because I'm nowhere near an expert. I mean, I was never like making money, but I kind of have an idea of it.
Right. It gives you a nice
Yeah.
base knowledge at least at a minimum. And like you said, you have been doing it for years, so you have even more than just a base. But like,
Hmm.
some of the people are walking into it like fresh, not
Yeah.
knowing really any of this at all, having to try to learn all of it, and it kind of gives you. Like you said, it doesn't give you like a huge leg up, but you kind of have a little bit of advantage because you can focus more on the specifics,
Yeah.
having that base.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's been fun. That's why I think this podcast is going to keep going. I mean, I love doing podcasts too, and it's an excuse for me to do it. So hopefully
Yeah.
it's the beginning of a long thing. And episode 5, man, pretty cool. I'm stoked about it. I'm glad to get you on here too, for sure.
Yeah, man. I was pumped when you reached out, man. I'm always glad to help, and
Yeah.
yeah, it's been awesome. It's been a little while since we talked, so it was
Yeah.
awesome to get on here and catch up, talk some fantasy football, and
Yeah.
yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I got to jump in that Discord more, man. I got to remember, hey, it's fantasy season. Get in there, man. Get in and, participate and everything. Get out of my NFT stuff.
Yeah, no, you're good because
Yeah.
even then, even in the Discord, like it'll definitely get going more, as the season really
Yeah.
starts going. I mean,
Yeah.
as of now, like it's kind of, I mean, it kind of is like comes and goes. There'll be some
Yeah.
conversation a little bit here and there. I try to post a couple things here and there each day or
Yeah.
whatnot. Like if I have any content, obviously I post it in there and things like that. But if it's like,
Definitely.
sometimes it'll just be like trying to talk about like a movie or show or something just to
Yeah.
keep
Get
some
some
conversation
engagement.
going. Yeah. But
Exactly.
yeah, during the regular season, obviously, it's going to have a lot more considering I'll have multiple articles per week. I'll have like all the baby bowl update standings,
Hmm.
everything like that. So it'll definitely, be a lot more active
Yeah.
once we get going here.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I know it's late for you. Shoot, it must be like after 12:30 over there, man.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. I just looked up. It's 12. Yeah, 12:33 now.
Yeah. Well, before I let you go and let your chance to plug yourself in there, I know you got your Twitter, but remind us of that and any other places to find you or any of that good stuff.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at Norton0723. You can find all my written work over at Last Word on Sports, Last Word on NFL.
Mhm.
It's linked in my Twitter profile, my author page, and things like that. And they always have a lot of good stuff over there. You can check out their site and everything.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, other than that, I'm gonna be pretty active on Twitter, keeping promoting the Baby Bowl, trying to get more and more people signed up before the season starts, and getting people in the Discord, and things like that. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, and you could find me. I actually updated my at recently. It is now at Ryan the Rye Bread on Twitter. Find this podcast pretty much hopefully at some point we'll be on all outlets, but at least on this episode's release we'll for sure be on YouTube, and we'll be on Anchor for the audio, and hopefully get out there on all the others podcast outlets soon as well. So thanks for coming. Thanks for listening, everybody. And of course, thanks for joining me, Rob. Love it.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I appreciate it. Anytime, anytime.
All right. Nice.